afternoon to everybody. Now we have a very rich panel of resource persons here. In terms of opening remarks, title of this session, Urban Mobility Going Green. I'll request the audience and the speakers, it's not green from the environmental perspective. Unless something is economically sustainable, it doesn't become green on its own. So you have to look at it as a wider setting. We have to look at that how do we ensure that there's an efficient and sustainable mobility. And mobility is always a means, it's not a goal in itself. When we are looking for an efficiency in any walk of life, then we are looking for whether the resources are getting utilized in an efficient manner. And for mobility, and especially for urban mobility, the most scarce and most limited resource is the road resources. Now, whether those road resources are getting utilized in an efficient manner, are they really a public good in a pure economic sense, or they have become a private good? The person who has got excluded from using a road resource is the person who is perhaps making the least impact on the environment, the pedestrian. There's no space for pedestrian on our roads, because the people who can afford a vehicle, they also suffer a cost in terms of the congestion in the city, but they can move, whereas a person who is a pedestrian or who cannot afford a higher price point is left to move only with public transport like a bus transport and spend more time. So how does a smart city impose the cost of externality by different modes and let it go into the pricing which the individual or a commuter pay? So that's how the smart cities of India of tomorrow will have to determine that how do we reach to that stage. The second one is about information, which is one of the speakers I expect that would be speaking about the use of information to facilitate end-to-end mobility. Now, the exchange of information, a timely, real-time information, which is available from the consumer perspective, the commuter perspective, also makes the end-to-end mobility a feasible option. And I'll make it as a last point that doesn't make that the public transport is inefficient in itself. Public transport can also be highly inefficient. So, use of scarce resources by public transport, of the public money, road spaces, how efficient those resources are being utilized. And permit me on this aspect, because it's a green mobility is one of the aspects of electrical vehicles. Electrical infrastructure is also being talked about, that smart cities have to start looking at what kind of infrastructure we are looking for. Are we looking for charging infrastructure at public places? For what usage? Or we are looking for charging being at off the road, meaning at the private houses itself? How our electricity companies are geared towards charging for that electricity, because the present system all over the country is higher the consumption, higher is the rate. It's not geared for that beyond a point it can be a charging of one's own two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. Then how does go about creating that infrastructure at one's own home? So this 4-5 areas, I'll request the speakers here to come one by one and say, to begin with, can I request from people from other, can we request Mr. Arun? Would you like to? Okay, so maybe you are the nearest to me. So Mr. Mohammed Subhani, would you like to go the first? Oh, why not? Yeah, please. So I just have to sit down there.
Hello.
Well, yeah, good afternoon. It's a post-lunch session. I hope people will not be sleeping. So let us make it more interesting, because the problems which we are facing on a day-to-day basis is the bad quality of the roads and how to make it more smart and more efficient. Now, you must have seen that the technologies which is emerging, well, we are the people from the optic fiber cable ducting. So we give the ducting solutions across the globe. And in Dura-Line, we also talk about the total solutions, right from the network architecture until the, we can say, the design solutions and end-to-end solutions, until installation. So we talk about end-to-end solutions. So what we have seen, that over the period of time, the projects which we have done in the past in India, the first we started, an American company, the name is Dura-Line, and we started in the year 1997. And when the first project comes to us, So there was nothing like a telecom ducting networking system which was available in India. So we came with a technology which is with a silicore. So the ducting system has got an internal lubrication which helps in reducing the coefficient of friction, thus ensuring that the optic fiber cables are going for a longer distances. So one of the projects which we have done is the project which is there at MSRDC. So that's the first expressway we started in the year 1997, and it was the time taken to build the Mumbai-Pune Expressway, which is the highest, we can say, the telecommunication connectivity is there in India. It took almost 3 years. So we got a project which is on a build, operate, and transfer basis. So we have built a network which we talk about the telecommunication network. So now it's a smart road. It's the first kind of a smart expressway which are on the wheel, and the solutions which we have provided to it is that we have given a total, in a median, there are 10 different types of ducting, and it's a one-time investment which may be almost about 4% of the cost of the total project cost, and in that almost we can say that 10 ducts were laid across the Mumbai-Pune Express Highway. So there are various sections into that. There was a straight road, there was a ghat, which is there, which is called it as a Khandala Ghat, which is the most complicated. And thereby the connectivity of 150 kilometers, which was done in a 3 years period of time. The highlights of this feature is the ducting which has been done, thereby, the telecommunication network can be easily done between the two cities, that is Mumbai-Pune, with an optical fiber cable networking. And it was a game changer when we were using the conventional kind of a technology with the copper cable, and now we are shifted back to the optic fiber cable. So now it's a big leap, and the quality of the networking was tremendous. So now thereby, it was not just only for the communication purpose, but it was also for the toll monitoring. So there were a lot of tolls. Almost there are 5 tolls in between Mumbai-Pune Express Highway. So now each toll will be having a total amount of how many number of vehicles are passing through, and how many vehicles would also, it will talk about what is the density, to calculate the density. And also recently, which we have also entered into the scenario of sensing the optic fiber cable network through the sensing technology. So optic fiber cable is also being used to sense the technologies there. Now the emerging trends which are there into the smart roads is that the roads which also be now conveying the electricity, the roads are also will be conveying the EV portals, and also you can say that it will be remotely monitoring the trucking system as well. So now this is the future which we see, and for that it is imperative, because the kind of the biggest problem which we are seeing in the recent survey also, that the most worst, or we can say the bad traffic is in Bangalore. It's number 1 in the world. And now there are, apart from Bangalore, there are 4 major cities in India which have also been, as marked as the most congested city. Now, how to come out of that? Now, with the existing infrastructure and with the kind of urban mobility which is happening, now we have to have a smart roads. Now, the smart road comprises of the not only the fast mobility, but also, we have to talk about the first mile and also the last mile connectivity. So the emerging trends are, a lot of emerging trends are there, and the concept things which we are working on to it is that the roads which are there with having a concrete which is transparent, thereby we can put the solar panels across that, and we can generate the electricity, so which will not only be used for the highways, but also monitoring the surveillance cameras and also the EV panels. So these are some of the things which are emerging into the trends for the smart cities. That's all from us, right?
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed, for taking us through this efficient ducting solutions and how the smart roads are should be. May I request Mrs. Shikha?
A very good afternoon to one and all. Today's topic of mobility, and that too urban mobility. When we speak of urban mobility, the first thing which comes to our mind is congestion. Mr. Mohammed also correctly pointed out, it was all over media recently that Bangalore is one of the most congested, not one of, it is the most congested cities in the world. And an average commuter spends maximum time on roads in Bangalore. So if we look at it from a perspective to solve it, the only way forward which I think would be taking up to public transport. Because as Ajay said, sir had correctly pointed out that what the number of passengers which commuters a bus can carry is what maybe 12 or 15 cars put together would not be able to carry. At the same time, the demand on road is very less for buses or any kind of public transport. Today, with a fleet of 6,300, BMTC carries around 35 lakh passengers in Bangalore city over 12 lakh kilometers. And it is very true that all the public transport corporations should live up to the expectation and provide a very reliable service if we expect to increase our ridership. To that end, there are a lot of initiatives which have been taken and which a smart city should also plan state over to take it up. For example, last mile connectivity, first and last mile connectivity. It could be physical integration with other modes of transportation, like in certain smaller streets or narrow roads where BMTC buses can't go there. We try to tie up with other types of modes of transportation. It could be IPT, it could be even ULU. We are actually going forward and bringing them all onto our app by sharing our data with them so that, they can start where we end, or maybe they can provide us with the first and last mile connectivity. So the information integration is very important because a commuter who travels or prefers to travel by bus should know that when exactly his route bus is coming and how long would be the waiting time and where exactly the nearest bus shelter is located. For this, it is very important that whatever the data we have collected over last 4-5 years by using our ITS system, it is very important that it is to be put on the public platform by way of maybe mobile apps, and we have done that. And we have also adopted a open data policy using which various startups have also taken up our data and they are using it, trying to build up various apps which would be commuter friendly. We have also tied up with another company called Biker, who is again providing us with the first and last mile connectivity for buses going up and down from airport. Having said that, it's very important that when one city plans for urban mobility, it is very important to think of the concept of multimodal hubs, so that, there are particular points, especially outside, slightly on the outskirts of city, so that all the buses or vehicles which are coming from other regions don't end up landing up in the city. So there are various hubs available for them to change over from either, say, bus to intercity bus to intracity bus, or maybe from metro to other kind of connecting services. So these are some things which, because all the smart city CEOs are here, also MDs and CEOs are also here today. So when we take up these initiatives, it's very important that we do this kind of intermodal integration. And we were very fortunate because Bangalore Smart City had come forward and funded us for metro feeder service buses, which we are going to procure and operate shortly. So these I think in Karnataka it is the first of its kind where Smart City Limited has come forward and supported an STU in this cause. It has been done earlier by Pune, and I think in Karnataka it's one of the first initiatives. So I'd like to congratulate Bangalore Smart City Limited for this effort. And that is from my side. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Shikha, for taking us through on the imprint of buses on the road and open data policy, and also that how the last mile connectivity is feasible even in a congested city. May I request Mr. Kalasad, who leads the intercity bus transport service.
Good afternoon, everybody. With the permission of the chair, I'm using this dais because it's a post-lunch session, very difficult to sit and concentrate also at the same time. I'm here as the Managing Director of Karnataka State Road Transport Corporation, which is about 58-year-old organization, one of the leading public sector transport corporation in the country. For beginners who do not know much about KSRTC, just a couple of minutes I would like to go into the inception of the KSRTC. It is one of the leading PSUs, as I have already mentioned. It not only operates the rural to rural connectivity, but also Mofussil buses, as well as the intercity, as well as the interstate buses. Also, we run the buses carrying almost 3 million passengers a day. And we have a social obligation to run the buses, wherein we have to touch almost 99.9% of the villages are being connected. The remaining 5 or 6 villages are not being connected because of the road conditions, etc. But I hope so by this year and also we'll be able to touch all those villages as well. Our passenger profile, if you see, mostly it will be in the rural sector. Obviously, we will be having the large community of a rural population. The low and the middle class population will be totally banking upon our services, but also the student community, that is the school-going, the college-going students who are being given a lot of subsidy from the government. Those are the persons who will be basically traveling. And also we have a lot of other concessions as part of our social commitment and obligation from the government. That concessions are given to the old age people, the ex-servicemen, and the freedom fighters, and various about 17 or 18 category of personnel are being given these kind of benefits. And we are glad to mention that we may not be making much of a profit, but at least we try to ensure that the services are done in a manner where the public transport is still treated as efficient, safe, and reliable modes of transport for a large majority of the traveling public in our state. And further, we also say that why am we here, though the subject matter is urban mobility, and why am we speaking on KSRTC? Well, KSRTC, besides BMTC working in Bangalore, KSRTC is present in almost 16 Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Mysore is the major next city of our operation. But other than that, we have all the major district headquarters, the urban centers, we are running the city buses. And we have a good connectivity within the cities of these particular places. And some of you who have come from different parts of the country here, I would request them to kindly visit Mysore, which could be an example of one of the proactive ITS-enabled public transport system, which is a beacon of light for other urban sectors in the country as well. We have introduced the ITS there in the Mysore transport system. Of course, this has come from the World Bank funding, and we have collaborated with the TCS there, and now we have got our own in-house IT-enabled personnel who are being managed the entire show over there. And this has really helped not only in increasing the ridership, but also helped our the traveling public to plan their travel according to their requirements in the city of Mysore. We plan to escalate this and ensure that all other cities are also covered under this particular project. The next project online would be the smart cities in Tumkuru and Davangere. These two cities are taken under the round 2 of a smart city concept. The transport sector is also part of the smart city, and we are investing almost close to 200 crore INR in these two cities, bus stands, upgrading the bus stands, trying to make them seamless travel for the commuters. We are demolishing the existing bus stand and ensuring that there is a PPP also coming in, so that not only it's a bus stand, but also it's a living experience for the public. So we have a commercial complex, we also plan to have an entertainment, we have the restaurant. So all these kinds of facilities will be available for the traveling public, etc. So what are we doing on the IT sector? ICT, as I've already said, the Mysore is one thing. Other than that, the commuters have an access to the online reservation system, which is, of course, is available across the country now. But KSRTC was one of the first public sector PSUs to start of this online kind of reservation, which is really helping us out. But within the organization, we have done a lot of other IT initiatives, which is helping us in improving our operational performances, personnel management, the depot management, the divisional workshop, as well as the centrally monitored parameters of performance of kilometers, etc. These are helping us in our operational performance, etc. The customer focus is always going to be our key area of our approach. And in regard to the going green concept, which our Honorable Chairman has stated that, yes, we in the KSRTC, we are trying to reduce the carbon emissions. We are trying to ensure that we also translate our diesel buses in due course to the EV. And Government of India has also allotted around 50 buses as intercity buses for KSRTC. That is Bangalore, Tumkuru, Bangalore, Mysore, Bangalore, Kolar. In all probability, we might like to extend further also. There are a lot of challenges in the EV ecosphere, etc. The reason being, as I have been mentioning in other fora also, the subject is still a very new subject, the sunrise industry, and the earlier on the FAME 1 model, the STUs did not have that kind of a capacity to invest upfront. So the second offer has come in now as a FAME 2. Even now we are facing a problem because the players are very limited in the first stage because the DHI, the Niti Aayog have their own set of regulations which we find a bit of inhibitions in attracting the best of the competitors. So we have taken a policy initiative to again go in for a fresh bidding, and we expect a better participation. Because the STUs, as I've already mentioned in my opening remarks, financially we may not be doing very well, but we have our own commitment to match the demands of the traveling public. So if the prices come down to an appreciable level, the conversion rate from the diesel buses to EV would be much faster, and I would see the Bangalore or even Karnataka as probably a capital of the next the electric infrastructure center, which could be a great center for the rest of the country as well. So I think the time for the future, we have to wait and see how we do go for EV in times to come. But before that, we also have an option to convert to LNG as well as the CNG. The conversion from the IC to LNG, the retrofitting charges is also one of the issues. I do not know the concerned the OEMs, if they can come out with models which can be of acceptable rate. I think that conversion also would be a greater value addition for all the STUs so that we can change and reduce the carbon footings for this particular thing. In regard to some of the initiatives which the KSRTC has begun in terms of reduction of accidents, though it's not part and parcel of this particular topic, but I think it will add to the accident-free zones. How do we improve our roads? How to make them smart? I think if you take in a very larger context, the road technology, the road construction technology needs a lot of improvement. I think gone are the days when we just have to design on a kind of a PWD SR8 kind of thing. I think we need to come up with better technology because the vehicles are coming out in different models. Now it's the Euro 6 enabled models are coming in. The fuel efficient vehicles are coming in. Obviously, the road technology has to match and ensure that we have those kind of technology coming in. To enable that, we also need to come out with the proper traffic regulations. The enforcement authorities will have to probably modify the regulations in such a way that the seamless travel happens for the public sector as a priority. If you see any of the Western countries, as the Honorable Chair has already mentioned, we live in a country where there's a mixed traffic. However, the pedestrian always gets the last right of way, unlike in the other part of the world. So we have within the road all the types of traffic being occupying the same space, and that's what is creating, I think as you rightly someone mentioned, that you're seeing the problem of Bangalore. It could be the same in respect of other cities as well. If we only can have a self-imposed discipline and with a proper regulator mechanism which is already in place, and we can have a proper enforcement authorities doing that, I think we can definitely come out with a proper road technology. The traffic simulators, first priority for the public buses. I think in some of the Western countries or even some of the other advanced cities also we can see that the buses could get a first priority when they come to the signal point. I think this is a very simple technology. I think it could be adopted in some of our own cities as well. I think these are the issues which could be addressed and implemented if we are really serious about the public transport as a mobility issue. And finally, the migration from the private owned vehicles to the public dominated buses, I think that would take a lot of paradigm shift in the kind of perceived impression that we have. Normally in India, in our culture, we feel that going by a public transport is always treated as a very secondary. Unfortunately, I think we need to change that mindset. We need to adopt traveling by public modes could not only improve the public transport system in a better way, but also reduce the pollution levels. So with these remarks, I would end my talk saying that a good opportunity for all of us to learn and ensure that the public transport gets the primacy. Thank you very much for the time given.
Thank you, Mr. Kalasad, for emphasizing on that public transport is for all and not merely for those who cannot afford a private transport. That's how sustainable transport will mean for everybody. And also, public transport for Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities is equally important. Most of the time, our focus goes on a larger city like Bangalore, but Tier 2 and Tier 3 are equally important for sustainable development of the country and our state. And equally impressive was your intervention on challenges on using electrical vehicles, that what challenges are and how do we go about sorting them. May I request Mr. Radhe Shyam from Uttar Pradesh Road Transport Corporation to share his views. From Road Transport Corporation.
Respected all senior officers, मैं UPSRTC लखनऊ से आया हूँ। मेरी मदर टंग हिंदी है सर, तो मैं हिंदी में ज़्यादा कंफर्टेबल फील करूँगा सर। UPSRTC पूरे हमारे उत्तर प्रदेश को सर ग्रामीण एरिया से लेकर शहरी क्षेत्र तक पब्लिक को सस्ता और सुगम यातायात मुहैया कराता है। हमारी रोडवेज की 9,250 बसें हैं और हायर्ड जो है लगभग 3,000 बसें हैं। विगत कई वर्षों से हमारा निगम घाटे में चल रहा था, लेकिन लेटेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी का प्रयोग करके और एक समीक्षा अच्छे ढंग से करके विगत 4 वर्षों से हम लाभ की स्थिति में हैं और पूरे प्रदेश की जनता को लगभग 60% जनता को हम अपनी बसों के माध्यम से यातायात सुगम कराते हैं। 2012 से हमने ITMS का प्रयोग किया, जिसे ई-टिकटिंग और BTS के द्वारा हमारी मॉनिटरिंग अच्छी हुई। इसी के साथ ही साथ हम वेब बेस्ड MIS का प्रयोग कर रहे हैं और ऑनलाइन इन्वेंट्री सिस्टम हमारा चल रहा है और IOC के द्वारा हमारा फ्यूल ऑटोमेशन 100% हो गया। इनका प्रयोग करके हम एक लाभ की स्थिति में हैं और इसके साथ ही एक और उपलब्धि हमने किया है सर। हमारे प्रदेश के कुल 1,07,000 गांव हैं, जिनमें से 98,000 आबादी वाले गांव हैं, जिनमें से 89,000 गांव को हमने अपने जो है रोडवेज की बसों से हमने जोड़ा है सर। तो एक प्रकार से जो हमारी बसें हैं उनसे हम आम पब्लिक को आने जाने के लिए एक सुगम यातायात की व्यवस्था कराते हैं। इसके साथ ही साथ हम BTS का प्रयोग करके और हमारी कुछ अभी जो शहर की बसें हैं सर 50 हमने पिंक बसें लिया है, जिनमें जो है CCTV कैमरा और इमरजेंसी बटन सबका प्रयोग किया है। और हमने अभी अपने बोर्ड में प्रस्ताव करके लगभग 60 जो है इलेक्ट्रिक वाहन ले रहे हैं सर। और हमारे शहर आगरा और गाजियाबाद, नोएडा, यहाँ हम CNG बसों का संचालन करते हैं सर। तो एक प्रदूषण रोकने के लिए हमारे यहाँ सर अभी 600 बसों का हम ले रहे थे, जिनमें से 300 बसों को हमने ड्रॉप कर दिया सर। अब यूरो 6 की बसें आ रही हैं, उनको हम लेंगे और प्रतिवर्ष अपने बस बेड़े में लगभग 1500 बसों की वृद्धि करते हैं। और ये कोशिश करते हैं कि जितनी हमारे पब्लिक है उनको एक सरल, सुगम और सुरक्षित जो है यातायात की व्यवस्था हम करें। इस दिशा में सर हम प्रयास कर रहे हैं। धन्यवाद सर।
Thank you, Mr. Shyam, for taking us through the use of technology for improving your internal operations and also providing an efficient mobility services from rural areas to urban areas for people who come for their livelihood on a daily basis. May I request Ms. Valentine to share her thoughts?
Good afternoon. I'm from the French Development Agency, AFD. We are a public development bank. We have been present in India for about 10 years now and committed up to 2 billion euros in India so far. Most of our activity focuses on urban transportation and energy. Some of you might know us through the metro funding. We have been funding 5 metros so far. We can proudly say that we are also funding the Bangalore metro. So I think the first metro we started to fund in 2014. It's been about a little bit more than 5 years. And what we can share today is that at first we started by those big infrastructure trying to support the very strong momentum that has been set by the government throughout metro and structure and infrastructure. And after 5 years, I think now we've come to that point where we are trying to take stock, to measure and evaluate the impact, and to measure that gap and see how we can strengthen also our approach. So looking forward now, we are trying to strengthen our dialogue, our sector dialogue, both at the central, state and local level. We are trying to mobilize more TF funds to have a look at those alternative scenarios that were mentioned earlier. We cannot have metro in all cities, so how do we come up with alternative solutions for T2 and tier 3 cities, looking at BRTs, tram, sustainable mobility planning. And also trying to emphasize co-construction and innovation, trying to really go for public consultation and do that back and forth work to consult the people, see what are the needs on ground, and try to make the design evolve a little. So a few examples of that, we've launched a study recently in Hyderabad, looking at technical urbanism and trying to see how we can feed the public infrastructure that are already in place. We have been launching a project called Mobilize Your City, MYC, thanks to the support of the European Union, which looks at 3 cities in India, Nagpur, Ahmedabad and Kochi, to develop both at the central and local level a comprehensive mobility plan and really focusing on low carbon and participatory mobility planning. And the last project that we wanted to share is the Cities program. Cities come from city investments to innovate, integrate and sustain. It's a project that was launched in 2018 to support the Smart City mission. So it was launched by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and it's supported by AFD and the European Union. So the objective of this program was to to select up to 15, it's actually 12, top of the class project within the Smart City mission to provide additional technical expertise and funding for a period of 3 years. There were 4 categories, and one of those categories was mobility. And the innovation that we are trying to bring, and it's really something that we are trying to push, to go and to strengthen that integrated approach. Maybe it's worth saying that I'm not the mobility expert in IFD, I'm more looking at the urban sector, but the reason I'm here is because we developed those approaches together, and that's really what we are trying to push. So in this cities program, I think the biggest innovation is this maturation phase. So basically the 12 projects have been selected back in February. Hubli is one of them. And we are asking the cities to take an additional 6 to 9 months to really work on this proposal, to consult the people, to mainstream what we call the city's values, so innovation, ENS impact, to have action plan on gender and see how we can integrate that also in the planning. So, for example, Dehradun is a mobility city. They are developing these child-friendly cities, and they are working with the teachers and with the students to develop mind map, to have gender-segregated data, to consolidate the baseline and really follow up indicators all along the projects. So the idea is to build on those major infrastructure that are highly needed to have a low carbon mobility planning, but see how we can fit them and how we can really start from the needs and kind of work around those innovative lines to work with the peoples. So yeah, that's I think the strategy for the years to come, and we'd be happy to work along those lines.
Thank you, Ms. Valentine, for taking us through the initiative and readiness of AFD as a development organization to work with federal government, state governments, local bodies, and with other stakeholders to help them in putting together a sustainable mobility solutions. May I request Mr. Arun from CISCO that how technology can be harnessed, used to make the mobility a sustainable option.
So I have a short presentation. I'll take about 7-10 minutes to present that.
If you can try to do it in about 7 minutes, we'll still have 10 minutes for audience for the questions.
Sure, I'll try and do that. Urban mobility. So there's massive change in the urban landscape, and which makes us think why urban mobility has become a critical part of urban planning today. So some of the facts that I would like to share with all of you. By 2030, urban cities will represent 70% of India's GDP. By 2050, 66% of the world population will shift to urban cities. In India alone, about 200 million people will be moving from rural side to the urban side, and it will create a major pressure on the infrastructure as far as when we are dealing with the urban planning. 11 of the most polluted cities in the world are from India. There is an aging population. People of 60 years and above will represent 30% of the population in the country. And half of the city traveling today is spending more than 12 hours per day in getting stuck in the traffic. Going digital has become extremely important to provide better experience to the citizens and keep them productive during their travel time. So there are global trends that are changing the urban landscape. There are shifting economies, changes in the social demographies, and obviously the environmental impact. Rapid urbanization is putting extreme pressure on the city infrastructure, and urban mobility is becoming a top investment priority for providing better experience to the citizens of the country. So when the authorities are planning for urban mobility, there are certain challenges that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. To start with, funds required in initiating the transport infrastructure projects, land acquisition and resettlements issues. From a technology standpoint, how do they manage the siloed networks that are in place, increase security vulnerability and provide and address the privacy concerns that the people might have. We are talking about connectivity and there is a lot of data overload. So how do we use that data in the most optimal manner and not waste that? And obviously, even when we build the solution, how do we integrate that entire end-to-end solution together, stitch it together? That is a complex task. Now, I would like you to imagine a situation where we could create a more unified passenger experience, provide greater situational awareness to the first respondents, integrate public safety networks for data and video, and reduce human errors that could cause accidents. This will definitely, if we can build a solution around it, this will definitely help in increase the adoption rate by the citizens and will also provide better ROI on the investments that we are making on the urban mobility side. Today, if we see, there is just about 18.1% that the citizens are using on the urban transport. Otherwise, they prefer to use their own vehicles. Future of urban mobility, this is what we need today. Hybrid and electric cars, connected public transport with last mile connectivity, sustainable investments, space for non-motorized vehicles, shared mobility, integrated payment models, drones as alternate forms of delivery, be it food delivery, be it medicine delivery, or even certain competitive agencies can use it for field service. And last but not the least, connectivity to keep the urban population productive even when they are in transit. A high-level view, a bird's-eye view of where CISCO is present in the transportation space. If you look at the areas marked in yellow, from an urban mobility standpoint, we have presence in connected mass transit, connected metro rail, connected roadways, and from an overall transportation standpoint, we have solutions for connected aviation, connected vehicle, freight management, and maritime as well. We're doing a lot of POCs and deployments in the maritime space as well, including inland waterways. Technology will play an important role in the urban mobility, and here in this slide, I have quickly highlighted some of the use cases that are possible, by the use of technology, which will provide better, experience to the citizens of the country. To quickly name a few, from safety and compliance perspective, on-board video surveillance, computer-aided dispatch, grade-level crossing, from a passenger experience standpoint, giving them an internet connectivity while they are on road, location-based services and mobile apps, from data operations, asset management and remote conditioning monitoring, and remote worker programs and fleet management, just to name a few. So when the authorities are planning for urban mobility, I think what is critical, and especially to for optimizing the operations and reducing the investment spend, it is extremely important for you to think around these 5 pillars that I've highlighted in this slide. From a technology standpoint, Internet of Things, core networking, as we go forward, more and more data points are going to be added, or the connected assets will be deployed onto the network that will be deployed. So so core networking becomes extremely important here to make sure that the network is scalable and is able to absorb and is resilient and is also able to deliver what it is supposed to deliver. You can't build a network again and again. Data center is another important field. Security is another area, and collaboration, so that all the different agencies can collaborate with each other to be aware as to what is happening in the city urban space and plan for any exigencies. So with this, I would like to end my slide, and if there are any questions, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arun, primarily for bringing that how technology can help in making the entire operations mobility more efficient. But in the beginning itself, first slide, the aspect which you brought in, that 12 hours per week, that is 7% of our life. spending on roads. That is scary. And that sets the ball rolling for smart cities. Certainly those people are living in a smart should not end up wasting their 7% of their life. So now the floor is open. We have about 10.5 minutes, so we can take 4 to 5 questions. My request, please introduce yourself and ask the question. Yes, Charlota.
Hello.
And yes, please name the speaker to whom you would like your question to be.
Good afternoon, sir. My first question would be to you. In your opening remarks, you had also spoken about having pedestrians and planning for pedestrians also, and that has been the experience in many of the cities that many a times if we look at non-motorized zones or we speak about developing new footpaths or expanding footpaths, there is a lot of resistance, and this would probably be a common experience in many cities because everyone wants maximum road width for the vehicles to move. So in this, keeping this in context, how can we start having pedestrians as the central focal point for us to start planning our cities, where our cities become more walkable cities also? That's the question.
Say like this, that roads are supposed to be a public good, which is free for all. But whether it is a pedestrian or a motorist, nobody pays a price for this. Pedestrian is edged out, motorist doesn't pay for it. Technology can help putting a pricing if a vehicle is coming in a congested area. Take your vehicle out, pay a price. Today's technology is possible to get into those areas. Once the motorists start paying a price for using the road space, the behavior will change. At the moment, roads are first free movement for parking, not for mobility per se. Now today's 5G technology or even today's technology, it is possible that vehicles can be sensed. Sense the vehicle, if you are taking out a vehicle, pay a price for it.
Sir, I am Dr. Balkrishna Shetty, Vice Chancellor of Sri Siddhartha University. I got two things. One is, so you are speaking about urban motility. Okay, now the first question is, why urban motility? I'll ask you one question because we have got one university in Hosur Road. About 10,000 students are there. And Saturdays, it is only half a day, just 2 or 3 hours of classroom. But almost 5,000 students have to travel 2 hours to go, 2 hours to come back. Almost 4 hours they are on the road to attend a 2 or 3 hours of class. Okay. I'm just asking you, why can't you make it like most of the countries have made it like 5 days a week? Okay, some Finland, all those countries are thinking of 4 days a week. So just to avoid this congestion on the roads, I think the government can definitely take a decision immediately to make it a 5 days a week, at least for the students. Not only that, the students are now learning not in the classrooms, they are learning more outside. You know, we call it as a flipped classroom. They are learning through YouTube, they are learning through Coursera. They need not attend the classrooms at all. So I think this is the first decision you have to take immediately, first point. And the second point, Madam rightly said that people are walking on the roads, not on the footpaths. Okay, that's the second point. And third point, as a Bangalore is a Silicon City hub, you know, we can make why people are on the roads. You know, first question we have to ask, why people are on the roads, why they're traveling on the roads? Mainly because maybe to attend so many meetings, you know. And are these meetings, are they definitely necessary? We see so many meetings happening. Definitely we can make so many meetings online. I am a member of the global service for one of the conferences. We do meetings online. I do meetings with Washington, D.C., New York, everything online. I think Bangalore can definitely make that.
Opinion, we have a limited time.
Okay.
Your first question, 5-day week versus a 6-day week. Finland can afford, their per capita income would be close to about $40,000 a day. We are $3,000 a day. So if we can start working on 25 hours a week, whether it's student or for adult, we will remain at $3,000 a day. Per capita income of $3,000. That's what it happens. But it's not a government decision whether university should be run 5 days a week or 4 days a week. It is for the Vice Chancellor to decide. Now I leave it questions to others, but can I invite some other questions here? And this issue of Shikha would like to have a go at not on 5 days a week. As far as meeting is concerned, government controls maybe about 15 to 20% of the GDP. The rest is in the private sector. It's for the private sector to decide how long they want to work. Again, mobility, who should take a choice? It's a choice of the commuter. If commuter wants, a person wants to work at home, by all means. Whether a student wants to do online, YouTube learning or a classroom learning, who and we are to decide that mode. Efficient transport for economic activity, for recreation, that is the responsibility of any state, for the society. That's what we should be working for.
Hello, sir.
somebody
Here,
at the back.
on your left. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. My name is Manjunath. I have a portal called Smart Sustain. It's about. Hello. Check. Yeah, it's working. We talk about metro. We talk about BM. Last mile connectivity. You know, the last mile connectivity is very, very important. I'm asking specifically to Ajay, Seth, and ma'am, Shikha, that how does you work in tandem to have a last mile connectivity? That's the biggest problem as far as Bangalore is concerned, because we're talking in, sitting in Bangalore. But how do you solve collectively about? There are government players.
So that's a very important segment. When we talk about public transport, we have to address that problem of first and last mile connectivity, and we have seen our ridership decrease substantially because of the gap which exists there now. So, it is at 2-3 levels where we have to address this issue. One is what BMTC itself can do in that regard. So we have smaller buses which we are using to give this last mile connectivity. But that is not enough. We realize that there are certain locations which even BMTC cannot enter. So then what we do, the next thing would be a very robust parking policy where we are enabling people to bring their vehicles and park it at a particular location and then move on to maybe metro and BMTC. The third would be tying up with IPTs, that is intermediate public transport systems, and other private service providers. It could be like we feel safe with two-wheelers because they don't compete with us directly. So we are planning to tie up our data sharing with Yulu, Biker, and these kind of other facilities. And maybe in days to come, we will also contemplate to share our data with Ola and Uber, so that instead of competing with each other, we end up complementing each other, and the commuter gets a fairly good experience of home pickup and drop.
And what about the integrated smart cards, ma'am? And is it in the pipeline?
That's a specific, certainly is a pipeline in Bangalore as well as in other cities as well. But the first question which you have asked here, efficient movement from one mode to another. Second one, different service operator, whether it is metro or bus or IPT or a two-wheeler, if each operator wants to maximize one's own gain, one's own business, last mile connectivity never happen. We're saying that we require a high tide for everybody. Everybody gains in that one. So the role of the government agencies came, of the local bodies come in there, that what kind of a policy and regulations are in place so that the operators work in tandem with each other rather than competing with each other. There's a business for everybody, but not a business for a operator per se. Some more questions? We still have time for 2 more. Yeah, please. This side and this side. So I saw this. Yeah, please come.
So, sir, this is Professor Koka. This is to Mr. Ajay, Seth, Madam Shikha, and Mr. Shivayogi. Sir, this paper presentation today is EV infrastructure, intelligent solutions. We are sitting in a smart city, Bangalore. But what is the EV infrastructure as a corporate bodies you have plannings as on today, which I don't see much in action? And either chargers are not there, and as a smart city conceptualization. So what are the transport corporations which you are working, and also Metro Corporation?
So coming to your first question of charging infrastructure, I speak with my experience of former MD BESCOM. So BESCOM has come up with a number of initiatives to create public charging infrastructure. They have already created 12 public charging stations, and I think another 120 odd are in pipeline, which will be commissioned shortly. And the current ecosystem of electric vehicle in Bangalore, I think it's around 11,000, out of which 6,000 are two-wheelers. And there are many other aggregators who are providing for four-wheeler facility in electric car segment. Coming to bus segment, as Kalasad sir has already pointed out, between BMTC and KSRTC, we are going to operate around 400 electric buses, for which tender was floated, but then due to various challenges which we are facing due to high battery cost, high vehicle cost, the rates quoted by different agencies are not working out for us. So now we are also learning, because this is an upcoming technology, we are also learning from various other STUs who have already procured the buses, and we have visited their facilities in Pune, Kolkata, Hyderabad, and we have re-tendered the entire thing. And we are hopeful that in days to come, as the cost comes down, it becomes a viable project for us.
Yeah, regarding KSRTC, he said, so yes, regarding electrification, and the upstream electrification will be done by the government, and the midstream charging station will have to be put up by the operator, and we have identified certain places between Bangalore, Mysore, Bangalore, Tumkur, Bangalore, Kolar, etc. So this is what I have to say from Karnataka KSRTC. Thank you.
We are absolutely out of time, so other questions we can discuss offline, maybe during a cup of tea or a coffee. But my closing remarks, congratulations to the organizers and Kuidfc, that this is a post-lunch, 2-hall session, but this hall is full. So thank you for well-organized conference. Thank you.